Good morning, Tacoma. This is Scott Willard, and you have joined me for the Congruence podcast, where faith and life come together. And I am celebrating the fact that BD Local, small business in Tacoma, is growing. They have outgrown their genes and have moved into a bigger, better, badder, crazy awesome space. And I am excited. I am like in a brand spanking new studio and loving it. It's like, it just makes me tingle. It's so nice to be in this new space. So, thank you for joining me on this beautiful Wednesday, and whatever day you're listening to the show, I hope it's a beautiful day for you too. So, congruence, right? Really, congruence and congruent men are my focus. And where faith comes into that is that truly I believe that it is so hard to be true and to live with integrity without faith. Not saying you can't do it. I know a lot of really good people that are not people of faith. But when you combine faith and the power of the Holy Spirit in your life, it's a complete game changer. And so that's what I like to talk about. And I like to work with men that are stuck and to help them to make transition in their lives. And in doing so, I help a lot of ladies along the way, right? Because most men have a lady, and that's just how it works. When you help the guy, you help the lady, because when you help one, you help the other. And so I really appreciate you joining me, and I hope that you get something out of the show today. You've got information scrolling on the screen if you want to reach out to me. I'd be really happy to talk with you. This is Congruent Men is my business, but this podcast is what I would refer to as ministry. This is like my church community in some ways, right? And I'm really happy that you joined me, and I just hope that if you have prayer requests, or if you have things you just need someone that you feel safe to talk to about spiritual things, I hope that you'll use the information that's scrolling and reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you. That's just a part of giving back. And so there you go. All right. Well, I'm a believer that people that help people should be engaged in getting help themselves. I'm generally nervous when helping people, whether that be counselors, or whether that be doctors, or whether that be coaches, you name it. When helping professionals are not engaged in getting help themselves, they have this natural tendency, and I honestly, I don't believe that it's conscious. I think that it's something that just sort of happens. It comes out of the subconscious, comes forward, and every once in a while you recognize it's happening, and you have to step back and go and get some more help. But if a helping professional is not getting help from someone else, then they're inadvertently getting help from the people that they're actually helping, right? That transference that happens. It can happen with a client, but it can also happen with the helping professional. And it's not a great thing. So I say all that to say, I've been embarking on my own thing, right? And so I started working with this men's group, and a coach. I actually have so outside of the group coaching, I have like my first live laser coaching session today. I'm very excited about this. Excited in the I'm kind of anxious and nervous and don't know what to expect way. Most of you can probably relate to that. You've probably experienced something like that. It's like, I'm excited, but just a little bit weirded about it. So anyway, so I've begun this process. And as I've begun this process, it's the power of group work, right? Group work, it's almost always more about the dynamic that's happening within the group than it is the facilitator that's facilitating the group. The real power is in the common voice and recognizing that there is a common journey that we all are walking. And this thing that happens in the midst of it where information comes forward and someone grabs a hold of a little nugget of hope. And it's like, well, crud, if that will work for them, maybe it will work for me. Nothing else has. Maybe that will work for me. And there's this power and the synergy that comes out of group work. And so being involved in this group and listening and participating, it's been hitting me. I was talking to Holly about this last night. It's been about 5 years since I was doing my own in-depth work with my own executive coach. And I forgot what it feels like to be challenged and to be uncomfortable and to have to look at yourself in the mirror and to surf those layers of consciousness and deal with stuff. And it brought to mind some things that I've been putting forward with Congruent Men. And I thought I would share some of those thoughts today, if that's okay with you that are listening and watching. This time as we as a nation are going through all of this unrest, and as I'm getting ready to say words, there's these thoughts that are going through my head, and I'm debating about whether to say them, and I'm just going to let it go and just say them, all right? I don't know that it's a coincidence that we are confronting the racial tensions and the disequity across our nation. I don't know that it's a coincidence that that is happening on the heels of COVID-19 and the social distancing that we are experiencing. Whenever you have change, there are like 3 things that happen. One is you come to this breaking point where you can't go forward the way you've been going anymore. And then you enter this horrible space of transition. And transition is awkward and ugly and nasty. And then you have the opportunity for change, right? But the thing about change is that for change to be energized, for change to truly happen, it has to come out of the rub and the tension and the pressure and the stress that happens in that no man's land of transition. And you just put just a little bit of motivation with it, just a little bit of motivation with it, and change happens. It's a new day. We are no longer in the past. It's a new day. A lot of us today are stuck in that no man's land of transition. We don't know what tomorrow looks like. We don't know what the new normal looks like. Be careful to own your experience in transition as your new normal. I hear a lot of people talking about, well, this is our new normal. No, it is not. This is a reality that shapes our future. That's it. This is not our new normal. This is a reality that shapes our future. Unfortunately, unless you have been really, really careful prior, that's a small word, right? Prior, prior to this transition, then what has been happening in the no man's land of transition is that you have been seeing all kinds of cracks show up in the foundation of your life. I talked about this last week, talked about it just a little bit the week before, but when you see those cracks, you gotta deal with it. And the thing that really hit me, that the men's, this coaching group that I'm a part of, it's not a faith-based group. And while it is not a faith-based group, as I listen and as I grow in this process myself, I hear lots of references to faith. So what I know is that there is a common experience that men have that is not tied to faith. And that common experience is that we seek to avoid hurt. We seek to avoid boredom. We seek to avoid pain. And we seek to avoid loneliness. And we aren't very good at it. It's not that we aren't good at coming up with creative ways to do it, because we are, right? I mean, come on. Whether it's our eating in an unhealthy way, whether it's our use of social media, whether it's pornography, whether it's outrageous and very risky sports, or whether it's our spending and we're trying to buy ourselves out of how gross this feels, or whether it's, relationships that aren't healthy. We're very creative about finding ways to deal with pain. And then what comes from all of that? This is the sick reality. We talked last week about evil, right? And about this thing where we can get to this place where where evil doesn't have to do a whole lot to impact your life, because you're doing it yourself. You're perpetuating the damage yourself. And the further you go, the longer you perpetuate that damage, the harder it is to see a way out. But here's the cool thing. The more damage you do, the more relief you experience when you do grab a hold of faith, when you do grab a hold of hope. It's a cool thing. Think about it. People that have gone their whole lives without any bad things happening in their lives, sometimes I think it's hard to really grab a hold of faith. But man, when you have been ripped up out of the gutter, there is a level of humility and gratitude at the love and the grace that God shows. It's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. And I want you to hold on to that for just a moment, because the product of all of our addictive behaviors are guilt, shame, and isolation, anxiety, and fear. All of those, in and of themselves, can be toxic. But most of us do not experience them in isolation. Most of us get ganged up by them. And I was thinking about this last night, and I was talking with Holly about this image that I had. Some of you who have heard my story get that I spent about 12 years of my life in Central Oregon, and I loved it. Central Oregon in the summer is still high desert. The difference between Central Oregon in the summer versus Central Oregon in the winter is that it actually feels like the desert, right? It's brown. It's dusty. It's dirty. But there is a beauty in it. Many of us, as we are experiencing those negative consequences, the guilt, the shame, the fear, the anxiety, the isolation, the depression, and we're in that dry wasteland. There are elements of beauty that we are not able to see, but we are living in that desert wasteland. And this image that I had was of one of our mountain climbing areas in Central Oregon, Smith Rock. And Smith Rock being covered in snow. A beautiful, pristine, white, powdery snow. And what came with the image was like when we have these religious experiences, when we have these supercharged Holy Spirit experiences, and we have all of that pure radiance come over our lives. It's such a beautiful thing. You see it, you touch it, you taste it, you feel it. And it's good. But what happens? The snow melts, right? The snow melts. And what's underneath is revealed again. And that, I think, is what's happening for a lot of us right now. And we're having to confront those cracks in our foundation. We're having to confront the aspects of our lives that we have set up to protect us that are in fact causing us damage. I just want to take one of those for a minute. The isolation. We've talked on this show before about the fact that, like, the deepest needs we have as human beings are to be loved and to have purpose. And so the two greatest fears that we have are that we are not lovable, that we are not worthy of love, that no one, if they truly knew us, would love us. And that we just are a cog in the wheel, that we don't have purpose. I'm not here for a reason. So how does it help us when we utilize isolation as a coping mechanism? All it does is feed those messages of you're not lovable, you're not good enough, you're not worthy. The biggest things that I believe that we need to work on as people of faith and as others that are still questioning about faith, the biggest things that we need to work on are honesty, building community, sacrifice, service, taking risk, and living in our purpose. And I think that that's where sacrifice and service come in, is what it takes to live in our purpose. Sacrifice is one of those weird things, right? It's not easy. We don't want to hurt. We don't want to feel pain. All that I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes has been about how hard we have worked to avoid pain. But if we don't get honest about our pain, if we don't live with integrity, being real, being transparent and genuine, if we don't find a way to live in community that shares that high value of honesty and integrity, if we don't do the hard, messy work of attending to those cracks, we're just going to keep repeating the cycle. You can deal with your addictions. You can stop. You can be like Nancy Reagan and just say no. But anyone who is a friend of Bill Wilson will tell you that it is so much more. Every 12-step program starts with honesty, identifying what the problem is, and moving in a systematic manner to attend to it. And it is a painful process, but it has got to happen. There are going to be marriages that end as a result of this transition, because one or both people in that marriage decided they were not willing to do the work they need to do. There are going to be marriages that thrive and that are so incredibly healthy and beautiful and authentic because both parties make a decision that they are going to attend to those cracks in their foundation. They're going to recognize the pain, and they're going to deal with it. I believe that our social unrest that we're experiencing right now is a heightened example a raw, open, gaping wound kind of example of how we as a nation have attempted to cope with pain. And I get that I'm simplifying it. It is so much more. It is so much deeper than that. And I think that until we get honest and name the pain and commit to doing the hard work that is going to have to happen, I think that we're just going to be waiting for a snow. And that's scary. It's scary because lives will be lost. Communities will be torn apart. And that's just not okay. Bringing it up a little bit. The energy is like on whoosh. So bringing it up a little bit. I believe very strongly that if we actively work to love, if we actively work to promote hope, and we actively work to promote peace, that we will create a world of wonder. Wonder in the context of awe. I wonder if it could be more beautiful than this. But if we could replace hate with wonder, what would our life be like? Some ideas about how to live a congruent life and to bring wonder into your life. That's what I'm going to leave you with. First, humility. Be real about who and what you are. Second, curiosity. Instead of knowing everything, instead of having the words on the tip of your tongue, sit back and listen. And if you're going to talk, ask questions. Be curious. Wonder. Third, you've got to grab a hold of trust and faith. Next, you've got to be nimble. Don't lock on. Allow yourself to move. And lastly, you've got to be creative. Don't be stuck in the same old, same old. Look for new ways, new opportunities to wonder. I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining me.